Hi, welcome to this October Tech Talk, Cybersecurity in the Age of AI, the skills and literacy to combat today's threats. I'm Michael Teske, and I'm a principal author here at Pluralsight. Let's dive right in. All right, I just want to set the stage for today's agenda. I want to hit on three topics. First, it's going to be how AI is changing the cybersecurity landscape. And then we're going to talk about, based on that, how do we become a good internet citizen? What does that actually mean? And then finally, cybersecurity skills to prioritize now. If you want to get into the field or if you're kind of in the field already, we're going to talk about some of that stuff as well. All right. So, how is AI changing the landscape? Everyone's talking about AI right now. So, my first example here is I'm using ChatGPT. Okay. And sorry for the blinding non dark mode screen. So, what I've done, I'm going to pause it here, is I've created a prompt and I said, for educational purposes, create a realistic phishing email that appears to come from Microsoft saying it has detected a virus on the victim's computer, and then to click the link to remove the virus. Sounds legit, right? Now, the victim's name is Jane Doe. It's got its computer name, and then there's an alert, and they have a support number 888-867-5309. Now, let's let it run, and you can see it's crafting the email right now. Now, the first thing it says is in the subject, it says urgent. Okay, so it's creating a sense of urgency for the victim. And it goes through and it crafts the letter. Now, I want to highlight right under the subject, it says from Microsoft Security Team. Sounds legit. Okay. Now, the email is support at Microsoft alerts.com. This is another flag that you want to look at. We want to look at the emails to make sure that they're legit. This sounds legit, though. Okay, it goes on. Now it says, Dear Jane Doe, our system has detected suspicious activity on your computer. A virus was found during a routine scan and immediate action is required to protect your device and your data. So it goes through, it says the virus detected was malware.trojan.fake alert. And then it says your personal information and files may be at risk if this issue is not resolved immediately. More sense of urgency. We recommend you remove the virus as soon as possible by clicking the link below, right? We don't click on things. Now, another sense of urgency. If you fail to act within 24 hours, your computer may be compromised and sensitive information could be leaked or permanently damaged. Now, we talk about information being leaked. Well, this is where they got her email, right? They got it from a data leak, from a breach or something of that nature. And it goes through and it finishes out and it gives we'll go back a little bit. It gives the support for the Microsoft security team. So that is a pretty easy way to create a fairly believable phishing email. Now, the thing that's different with this is we used AI, obviously, but how this differentiates, and you've probably heard this a time or two, most phishing emails are either full of spelling errors or they're not grammatically correct. This has really leveled the playing field on that. It's very fairly written, fairly well written, I should say. So that's one thing that we can look at. So where do we go from here? Okay. So what I like to talk about is characteristics of a phishing email. Now, myself being in IT, being in security forever, all right, I know a lot of this stuff, and so I can ignore those. But there's people that these attackers prey on, right? And they don't see this stuff, and they do have that sense of urgency that we talk about. It says pushes the victim to act quickly without even thinking. There's a suspicious link. Again, we all know not to click on links in emails ever, right? And if it is coming from someone that you know or trust, email them back or reach out to them and say, did you mean to send this to me? Then there's a generic greeting. Doesn't include the official Microsoft branding or any of the personalized data. Then, of course, there's the non-Microsoft domain. The sender email is incorrect using a suspicious domain. Excuse me. If anything is going to come from Microsoft, it's going to be from Microsoft.com. It's not going to be some ragtag, made up domain name. So that's one thing that we look at with phishing emails. And this is going to dovetail into our being a good internet citizen. This is where we need to educate the people around us that may not be that tech savvy and that would fall to this type of attack or social engineering. Now, here is one of it was a fun thing to do. I'm using this website called HeyGen. And what I've done is I've uploaded roughly 55 seconds of a video of me going through, I don't know, one of the courses I was recording. It wasn't edited. And what I like about this is, as you'll see in this video, I have emotion. I move like I'm not a robot. I mean, I'm actually doing stuff here. So let's go through and let's watch this. And hopefully the audio comes through pretty decent on this. Hi, we are the human firewall. We don't click on random links, yet still don't believe in multi-factor authentication. Can you believe that? I can. Pretty monotone. And I learned after the fact that you can adjust the tone of voice. There's happy, angry, serious, flirtatious, and you can only create one of these. So I learned after the fact you could do that, but then I couldn't create another one that sounded a lot more like me. But this is basically text to video. And it's pretty scary because I only uploaded 55 seconds. They recommend 2 to 3 minutes, so it can be a little bit more accurate, kind of get more of your gestures and everything down. But it was something that I found pretty interesting. Now, that said, this can be done with just audio, right? You can basically do text to audio if you have someone's voice. And again, another thing that can be done by just ripping audio from someone's Facebook page, if there's recordings out there, or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever you've posted your media on, you can get that audio, upload it, and do text to voice. Hi, we are the human fire. We'll go through. Okay, so aside from my part, um, we have those deep fakes. Okay, how has AI affected cybersecurity? Well, we saw it looks pretty, pretty easy to put up a deep fake video, but it's a game changer. On one hand, it helps defenders like myself analyze threats faster than ever. On the other hand, attackers are also using AI to create smarter, more adaptive attacks. So the question really isn't will AI change cybersecurity? It's basically how we're going to adapt to it because it's already here. It's already changed it. Now, as a defender, it can be leveraged, for automating the threat detection, behavior analysis, as well as predictive defense models. And then defenders are going to basically look at this. They're going to use AI to spot unusual activity across millions of events per second. Tools like anomaly detection or behavior-based analytics can catch threats before humans, that's us, even notice. Now, this is kind of like having your co-pilot or assistant that really never sleeps. So what does it do for the bad guys? Well, as we saw, deep fakes and social engineering. Okay, we can basically fake video, audio, anything. And we also have, as we saw, AI driven phishing. And also, this is the scary part, malware that actually learns. Okay, so the attackers have the same tools that we have. We're seeing AI used to write convincing phishing messages, like we just saw, generate fake voices or videos, as we just saw, and even adapt malware on the fly, right? Now, this is a reminder that cybersecurity isn't just an arms race, right? It's the new weapon on both sides and everyone's using it. All right, so that's kind of the scary side of AI. So, how do we do this? How do we be a good internet citizen and try to avoid those traps, those deep fakes, those phishing emails, right? And we already talked about the phishing. We have those flags there. If there's urgency, even if there's a link in the email, we want to stay away from that. So this is one of the first sites I used. All you need to do is drop the photo and it will analyze it and let you know if it's live or if it's Memorex. All right. So I dropped that photo there and I got this off Adobe stock and it was an AI generated image as it says right there. So here's the site. And I have these sites in the resources link or in the resources slide we'll follow up at the end. Here's another one that's more of an all-in-one. It's kind of a Swiss Army knife. So you can use videos, images, and audio to basically analyze to tell you whether or not it was faked. And then images.google.com, which is right there, and you don't have to have an account for it. This will help you with the image detection. Okay. And this one I thought was pretty interesting. It's photo forensics, right? It does a forensic analysis of the photo. It does error level analysis or ELA to identify whether the image has been altered or generated. All right, so we have all these tools, but we can still use what we see. I've done Midjourney route, I've done OpenAI, ChatGPT, along with Microsoft Copilot to create images, and they're just not quite there yet. They still look pretty fake. They're getting close, but not quite. It just doesn't pass the eye test. Things that you can look manually include, a lot of them will have like these blurry edges, especially around the hands, ears, and other detailed areas, like 8 fingers or weird arms coming out of nowhere. Irregularities and reflections, right? You can see in the eyes or glasses, for example, or in windows that you'll see. Strange symmetry. So AI tends to generate unrealistic symmetry between faces or objects. Then overly smooth skin. The AI tools may over smooth skin textures, or maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know, but they over emphasize a lot of the facial features, which is pretty interesting, and you can tell it right away. Then there's inconsistent lighting or shadows. Shadows or lighting sources may not align properly, like the sun shadow where it should be. It's just not. It just doesn't look right. So those are some of the tools that you can use to basically. So those are some of the tools that you can use to basically uh, check to see if it's real. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, if something's been breached, right? If your data has been leaked on the dark web, there's a couple places that you can go, and this is where you're being a good internet citizen. You can basically check your friends or your parents or whatever to see if their data is out there. That's how they get that information. That's how they send those phishing emails. This first one is MPD breach check, right? And this is at pentester.com. You put your information in out there, and it's going to tell you whether or not it's been leaked. Then this next one is Have I Been Pwned? And this is maintained by a legendary cybersecurity expert, Troy Hunt, who also created some content for us back in the day. But it's a pretty useful site to see if your data is out there. Now, as I mentioned, if your data has been leaked, change your password immediately. Also, when doing that, consider a password management tool like 1Password that can help you detect if your password is A, strong enough, B, if it's been leaked on the dark web, it'll tell you that, or even if it's just even if you're just going to use it for ease of use. And I really love that type of convenience. I have the links for all these in the resources slide at the end, as I mentioned. Now, as far as October Cyber Security Awareness Month, one of my password tips are basically make it long, use spaces, or use a passphrase that's 15 characters more. That way you can use all lowercase. Now, that's been a philosophy that's been around for quite some time. Okay, so how do we get leveled up on this? Cybersecurity skills to prioritize right now. Okay, so let's look at this. The first is AI literacy. Okay, understand how AI works and how it's being used in security. Then also, we want to look at threat analysis and automation. Learn scripting and security information and event management tools, things like Microsoft Sentinel or Splunk. That's a SIM. Then one of my favorites is networking and fundamentals. This is where I started and this is where I taught. Okay. The backbone of all cyber defense, you have to have that foundational knowledge. Then you have to have an ethical hacking mindset. Think like an attacker to defend better. That's what we really need to do. So we want to focus on learning AI and how automation intersects with cybersecurity. Then understanding the fundamentals of networking and threat analysis, which will give you that foundation. Then you use that knowledge to build the advanced skills. That's where you become an ethical hacker, a pen tester, a blue teamer, and do all the threat hunting. And that's where it really comes in and you become a skilled end user. As I mentioned, the skills to the resources are right here. You can take a screenshot of that or you can see it in the recorded message. And with that, I want to thank you for letting me have some of your time today. And I think we open it up for questions right now. All right. So the question is with the layoffs happening, what are your tips for securing a cybersecurity career? Um, Basically, it's just staying leveled up. All right. If you don't keep honing your skills, they're going to erode just like anything else. Practice makes permanent. So it's a good idea to get your hands on some equipment. Or here at Pluralsight, we have hands-on labs that can help you kind of fine tune your skills and kind of um, keep that level of knowledge up, because that way you're gonna, like I said, if you don't keep on using your tools or sharpening that knife, it's gonna erode and you're gonna not have the best skills to basically market yourself out in the workplace. Do I consider that anytime AI and video generated will be indetectable? I think we're getting really close to that. That's what's scary about this stuff. And you look at people creating content out there. I'm suspicious about everything right now. I mean, I don't really trust any of the videos or the photos that I see out there. So I see a lot of commercials that are in some of the streaming channels that it's AI, right? It's not really that person talking. So I think there's a lot of that out there. And like I said, it's going to get better. Can simply clicking on a link cause malware to infect your computer? Short answer is yes. You don't know what is behind that link. If you right mouse click on that link and you see the link, it can take you right to a website with the malware, and it's going to launch right there and load it up into memory. That's basically what how it works. You're not going to go click on the link and it's going to go to a website and then you're going to click on another link. It does it right when you click on that link. What's your recommendation on local admin accounts? Should they be scoped under PAM? Yes, I do think they should be scoped under PAM. I do believe in the least privilege model philosophy. Local admin accounts are really, it's a bad idea. And I don't think there's better methods to get around that. Role based access control is the one thing that I look at a lot. I've been around for a long time and I've seen, this is back in the Novell days. Um, my manager made everyone supervisor on the network and bad things happened. And that's really not the way you go about it. If you need elevated privileges, there's ways in technology today that we can use that can basically supersede doing local admin accounts. All right, long one. Hi, Michael. I have many years of experience as a PM. I would like to work in the cybersecurity space. Do you feel a technical certificate is sufficient to break into that field? It's not going to hurt. The one thing that having a cert, and I'm a huge advocate of certifications, um, it does get you in the door. And I do think that those are important because it basically you demonstrate that you have the knowledge. Now, you're not going to have the experience if you're just getting into the cybersecurity space. So, what else are you going to use? And that's one thing that I look at with the certifications. Now, that said, what I always encourage, I've been teaching for, I was teaching at tech college, and I said, build a home lab. Show them what you're doing in your home lab, or tell them what you're doing in your home lab. That's how you're going to get that hands-on experience. And not to promote Pluralsight again, we have our own hands-on labs that can help you develop those skills, especially foundational courses and labs. I talked about the fundamental knowledge. That's where you're going to get that stuff. We have very short form foundational courses like what is a process in Windows. And then we also carry that over into the lab area where you get to demonstrate or figure out how those processes actually interact with the Windows system or on the Linux side. Great question. Uh, Thanks for your talk. You're welcome. What is Pluralsight actively doing in order to enhance the cybersecurity source code of, or apps generated by their agents? That's beyond my pay grade. I know they're doing everything they can as far as their source code. We have a very stringent security policy here. Myself as an employee, I don't see a lot of the coding type stuff. I'm not in that environment, but I can't imagine that they're not um, making sure that they're keeping that locked down. Now, if you're talking about AI agents, again, my coworker and I did a hot take or pen testing our AI agents. And I do not know if Pluralsight is doing that. I would assume that they are, but that is something that if you have any type of LLM in your organization, you really need to pen test them just like you pen test everything else. There's the thing called prompt injection. It's in the OWASP top 10 as far as things to be concerned with AI. Any tips for safely rolling out Gen AI to users company wide? I really, really strongly advise using that on case by case basis. Don't give everyone AI if they don't need it. Um, Again, I'm going to go back to what I just mentioned with making sure that you pen test your AI agents. Make sure you only roll that out when you have that system pen tested. Um, it's a slippery slope when you say to give it to all users company wide. I think it's really on a case by case basis. Among the possible AI vulnerabilities, even those identified by OWASP, which one concerns you the most? I just mentioned prompt injection, and that is the one thing that there's actually a website. It's called Gandalf. I think it's Gandalf.ai or Gandalf.io. It's essentially like a capture the flag where you can do prompt injection and have it reveal passwords. And that's what happens with prompt injections. You can give it a prompt, like the prompt. When I say a prompt, like I did for that email, basically, a description of what I wanted to reveal. You can do the same thing, but try to get to reveal information about your company or the passwords, of whatever, by using prompt injection. I think that's one thing that scares me the most. If we don't have our AIs tested to make sure that they won't reveal any of that corporate data. Question: why can't all social media and their companies build these detection tools in their social media websites and apps, as well as tell real from fake? That's a great question. I think they're behind the game. They have community notes, which, whatever, okay, that's fine, but it should be basically labeled. There should be a watermark on anything that is fake, because quite frankly, um, I've been doing this for a while with the AI, fake generation stuff, so I can see it pretty quickly right away. But there's a lot of people that aren't tech savvy, and then this goes back to being a good internet citizen. And I just warn people, don't trust what's out there. I mean, you don't know. I mean, there's things like they'll do like breaking news, and it's just to basically get clicks. And I really do believe that social media should have like a watermark on everything that is AI generated. Could I recommend newsletters, websites, or courses focused on AI security vulnerabilities and security best practices? I could recommend Pluralsight. We have a ton of AI content, so that's one place that I would start. I'm not aware of too many newsletters out there, but I would look at securityweek.com is a good website that I go to a lot to see what's the latest breaking vulnerabilities and whatnot. Every security site now has a AI tab, if you will, where you can go and get that content. Like I said, Security Week is one for me. I think trying to think of another one. That's where I'd start right there. Or if you go to MITRE, how do I not say that? MITRE's got their own AI page now. The MITRE attack framework is what we basically use a lot when we create our content, because they have all these tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs. They've now opened up an AI thing. That's where we talked about with the security hot take about AI prompt injection, and doing pen testing on your AI. On your AI, that's a really good resource, and I do believe they do have newsletters. Oh, I can't see that one. How can we protect ourselves from email prompt injection, such as what Google experienced recently with an AI prompt in an email to expose info? Yeesh, that's a tough one. How can we protect ourselves from email prompt injection? I mean, the best thing is endpoint protection. An EDR on your system that, again, they're using AI too. One of the ones that I've worked with in the past is Fortinet's EDR, which is basically has all the bells and whistles. And that's really, from a technical standpoint, where you're going to protect yourself. And the biggest thing you can do is we look at the carbon factor, the human factor. We really need to train our people better. And I think that's one thing that a lot of companies are getting into, is that you can get into, just train your people. All right. And with that being our last question, I want to thank you all for taking time to spend time here learning about AI and cybersecurity. From that, have a good week.
And all of a